Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to work on our squat mobility by using the kettlebell to do a hip mobility drill. Everybody's squat could be better, absolutely everybody's. In order to get our squat better, we can work on it in a bunch of different ways. We work on it with barbell, with kettlebell, with heavy club, with slamball. Kettlebell and heavy club are probably the easiest implements to use to work on improving your squat depth, but we can still do breakout drills with those pieces of equipment. Because kettlebells and clubs are levers and they put stress on certain angles of the body, it helps people get into mobility drills that they might not otherwise be able to benefit from. Getting down to the ground is a skill all on its own. Step back with one knee, put your knee all the way down on the ground, take your hand, find the ground, sit all the way down and through. Our Shinbox is a basic position that we use to work on our hip mobility. Our knee will end up with the instep of one leg. Our feet will be about shin distance apart. That should be the distance about of your normal intermediate weight squat. If you were to Shinbox to the other side, same thing. The knee ends up at the instep of that foot. For this kettlebell drill, we will take one hand and we will loop it into the kettlebell. The L of our hand goes into the corner, the L of the kettlebell, so that we can have a flat wrist. This allows us to have our pinky bone, our wrist, and our elbow in one vertical line. That is how you should hold a kettlebell. We are not using a barbell grip where the handle is up higher and our wrist is bent. We don't do that with kettlebells. It makes it generally uncomfortable. If you have to, adjust the bell to get your hand all the way up in that corner, that handle down at a 45-degree angle. This is important for the mobility drill. Now we have a weight outside of the center line of our body. We are gonna drive our knees away from the bell so that the weight will end up over one hip specifically. Drive to one side. Now your elbow is directly above this hip. This weight is dragging down and the kettlebell is pulling our body into a vertical upright spine position. Orient back to center. Your feet are gonna migrate a little bit over time, depending on what surface you're on. Arm tracks inside of that knee. Lean back to get out of the way, drive down, lean forward. Make your spine as vertical as possible. Come back to center, lean forward for a split second, lean back, drive to one side, verticalize the spine. Most people will have that hip up in the air and rolled forward. The goal is to roll it back and down, and you will feel a stretch, like you're pulling apart that hip joint, which is accurate because you kind of are pulling apart that hip joint. Get back to center. When we go to the other side, we can set the kettlebell down nice and gentle in front of us and go to the other side. The L of our hand goes into the corner or the L of the kettlebell so that we can get that good position. This being vertical is important. Lift the chest up, drive to one side, sit back in that hip. One side is usually worse than the other, and your goal here is to help make them more equal over time. Rotate back to center, lift the chest up, verticalize the spine. Get your elbow out of the way, get the knee down, shin to instep, verticalize the spine, lean back. Feel a stretch inside of that hip joint. Come back to center. When we set the kettlebell down, you can grab it with the other hand, lower it down so that you don't end up hurting your wrist, your elbow, or your shoulder. This is a simple drill. In the beginning, it tends to be very hard for people, so you might do sets of 5 on each side and then put another exercise in the middle. Treat this as a loaded mobility drill, so usually low reps in the beginning. Something like an adjustable kettlebell is very good for this, so you can start with a light weight and you can increase the weight over time. This adjustable kettlebell has 41 different weight settings in it, starting at 12K, going up in half a K increments, all the way up to 32K or 70 pounds. So think starting at 25 pounds and then getting up heavier and heavier over time. The smaller the weight jump, the more likely you are to have success in this exercise, so that we can get into these positions, work on stretching it, come back up. say 1 rep, do 5 reps total on one side, set up, change to the other side, and do 5 reps on the other side. Hip mobility is hard, and it is super annoying to work on. But every time you work on hip mobility, it does generally improve every aspect of your life. The better your hips move, the better your knees move, the better your ankles move, the better your spine moves. If your hips are really tight from living in the modern world and always sitting in chairs, then the lower back tries to take over the movement of the hips. That tends to put people's spine into instability because that's not the way the spine is supposed to work. So by reintroducing mobility into the hip joint, the spine goes back to doing what it's supposed to do. The hip is supposed to be mobile. The spine, specifically the lower spine, is supposed to be stable. If the hip is too stable, then your body tries to steal movement from your lower back. That causes people pain. Generally don't do it. Work on your hip mobility from now until the day you die.